To Siman Lamed Dalid. So Siman Lamed Dalid is interesting. It is basically the Siman and the Mechaber that deals with Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. So I'm going to read, the Mechaber is incredibly long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the Mechaber and we'll talk tomorrow about some of the details because it's so the Mechaber begins. Seder HaNechasim Bebatim. The difference between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam is the order of the parashios in the Shel Rosh. As we're going to see, they have to be written in the same order. It's the placement. So according to Rashi and Rambam, Rashi agrees with Rambam. So let's go with Rashi. We'll just call it Rashi. According to Rashi, it's mismol hamaniach. So it's from my left, which is your right. So when I'm wearing it from my left, it begins Kaddish, then V'hoya. Yeah, Kaddish is in the external. Then Achara V'hoya Kiviacha. Then Shema. Then V'hoya. So it's V'hoya, Shema, V'hoya. V'hoya Kivyach and V'hoya Shemaya. Those are the two. So the V'hoyas are separated by Shema. Rabbeinu Tam flips it. So according to Rabbeinu Tam, it's V'hoya, V'hoya, Shema. So he takes what's the last two for Rashi, he switches. That's the difference in Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. So the Mechaber continues, V'shama V'sheni, V'hoya Shemaya B'ais Revi, Shubais Achitzin Liyaminoi. Rabbeinu Tam, Rabbeinu Tam flips the last two parshias in the order of placement. That is the difference. U'minhag ha'olam karashi, and the minhag ha'olam is to follow Rashi. Okay. Now the Mishnah Berurah explains. First of all, the Mishnah Berurah clarifies: if you put in the wrong order, it's puzzle. That would mean, on a simple halachic level, Rashi would say Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin are puzzle, and Rabbeinu Tam would say Rashi's tefillin are puzzle. Now there is a third sheet of the Arizal that the Arizal held that Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam are actually two spiritual components that need to be worn together. But let's go, that's more of a Kabbalistic approach. The halachic approach is that there's one correct way, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. Interestingly enough, so there's a famous shaila as well. How could there be a machlokas? We've been wearing tefillin every single day. So some approaches was that it was a machlokas from the beginning of time. It was a machlokas at Moshe times, at Moshe's time. But there's a tshuva from, it's called Tshuvas min Hashemayim. One of the Rishonim, before he would go to bed, he would write a shaila, put it under his pillow, and then while he was sleeping, he would go up to Shemayim and they would give him an answer. And he wrote the answers down, and there's a tshuva sefer of just those answers. Rabbi has a very lengthy discussion as to whether you could rely on it for halachic purposes, because we don't paskin, we paskin the halachas down here, not in Shemayim. Okay, but the third shaila over there is he asked the shaila, what is the correct approach, Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, for tefillin? So the response was, whatever this means, the same way they argue down here, they argue up there. Rashi, the base bezdin shalmaila follows Rashi. Hashem follows Rabbeinu Tam, and the halacha follows the majority, Rashi. That's what they said. Whatever that means, who knows. But anyway, so you have these two approaches, and if you put the wrong order, it's puzzle. Says the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah also clarifies that this order of Rashi does not matter whether you're righty or lefty. It's always starting from the left, Kaddish, etc. It's standard. Now, Kosva Poskim, Degam Rabbeinu Tam Modes being ksivim asam keseda shuksuvim. Another point. The Shel Yad is all written on one cloth. It's also inverted for Rashi Rabbeinu Tam. That Rashi has Shema at the third, and Rabbeinu Tam has Shema at the end. But according to everyone, it has to be written in the proper order, which means you have to, according to Rabbeinu Tam, right? According to Rashi, you write 1, 2, 3, 4. But according to Rabbeinu Tam, it's 1, 2, 4, 3. So what you have to do is 1, 2. Right, leave a gap, write the third parsha, then go back and write the fourth parsha. And that's why I told you, the Seif told me Rabbeinu Tam tefillin are more expensive. Because it's hard to do that. Because if you mess up, you got to restart. So you needed a skilled Seif who's able to make Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Then the Mishnah Berurah says, fine. The Mishnah Berurah then says, although the Shulchan Aruch writes that the minig is like Rashi, the Mishnah Berurah says, Kasa Beis Yosef, Dechein Iker, Dechein Hiskim Agra. The Beis Yosef writes that we paskin like Rashi, the Gra says we paskin like Rashi, and that's why we only make a bracha on Rashi tefillin, not Rabbeinu Tam. Now the Mechaber, well, it's a very lengthy Mechaber. The Mechaber will discuss wearing both. Technically, we paskin like Rashi, but says the Mechaber in Seif Beis, Yarei Shamayim, those that fear heaven, Yotzi Yidei Shnehem, they wear both. Now, the Mechaber addresses wearing both at the same time. which Rabbi has a very lengthy tshuva. He is not the fan. He always says that if you're going to wear it, you go back to back, one after the other. But he is addressing wearing both, which is api Kabbalah, the more appropriate approach, which you see some Yidden have small ones. So says the Mechaber, Yasa shtei zugas tefillin, v'yanichem shneim, you wear them both at the same time. Now, isn't it a problem of Baal Tosef? You're wearing too much tefillin, right? Baal Tosef means you're doing too much. Now, if you hold according to the Arizal that you're supposed to wear both, it's not Baal Tosef. But the Shulchan Aruch paskins that there's one that's correct and there's one that's incorrect. So how am I putting on? It's like putting on two mezuzahs on the doorpost. You can't do this. So it says the Mechaber Yechaven. You have to think if you're wearing them at the same time. But osam shemalib dehilchas ani yotzi dechavoso, that I'm only yotza with the proper one in Shemayim if it's Rashi ben Tam, whatever it is. I want to be yotza with the proper one. The hashar him kuritzuas, and the extra is just leather. It's just leather. It's not doing anything else. That way, you see, for us it's not a problem because we're not wearing them at the same time. If you wear Rabbi Tam the way most people do, you put on Rashi, you put on Rabbi Tam. It's not at the same time. It's not Baal Tosef. The problem is you're wearing both. So instead of 4 parshas it's tefillin on your head, you have 8. So that's 4 extra. So you have to have in mind that one of them is for the mitzvah and one is just leather. Because there's room on the head for 2 tefillin. If now says the Shulchan Aruch, let's say I don't know how to put on 2 at the same time because it's not so easy, or let's say my tefillin are too big. So then put on Rashi and then put on Rabbeinu Tam, but do it right away. That way the bracha. V'yesh omrim shemlu yechalaniim b'vas achas yaniach shal Rashi. Yivarach alav, wear Rashi, make the bracha. V'yila b'shas kriya shma tefila, wear it for Shema and Shmona Esrei. V'yachach tefila yaniach shal Rabbeinu Tam below bracha v'yikrem Shema v'yim Shema. And then after davening, put on Rabbeinu Tam without a bracha and say Shema. The Mechaber then says in Gimel, but lo yasa kein al misha muchsak mefursim b'chasidus. You should only do this if you're well known and established that you're a chassid, a very, very holy Jew. Which is, by the way, because of that line. Now I'll do a little more Mishnah Berurah, and then tomorrow we'll talk about this more. Because of that line from the Mechaber, that's why historically Litvaks do not wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, because the only people that should do it are people that's well known for being a Yarei Shemayim. Who's to say? Now,
but they say he was referring to.
So some say he was wearing 2 at the same time. The other answer is that even if he was referring to the way Rabbeinu Tam is worn one after the other, because the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh came to the world and said everyone should start wearing it, now it's no longer such a big zach. It used to be that it was like a Baal Gaiva, like, oh, you think you're so chashiv, you put in Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Now, come out every chassid wears Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. It's not a big deal. Okay. Let's just do some Mishnah Berurahs and then we'll pick this up tomorrow. The Mishnah Berurah says, Yaniach. If you wear 2 tefillin at the same time, you put Rashi closer to the edge of the hairline and Rabbeinu Tam towards the back. For Arizal, that's v'amidim litzad, and also, by the way, on the arm, the Rashi is in the back. So, when the Rashi is in the back and Rabbeinu Tam is in the front by the arm, and by the Shalrosh is the opposite. Rashi is in the front and Rabbeinu Tam is in the back. That's Alpi Kabbalah. Now. Veritzuas de Rabbeinu Tam yemechusa tachas ritzuas de Rashi. The ritzuas of the Rabbeinu Tam are covered with the ritzuas of Rashi. So you put the ritzuas of Rashi of Rabbeinu Tam, and then you wrap on top of them the ritzuas of Rashi. So you're not putting 14; you're doing 7, double layered, with the top being Rashi, the lower half being Rabbeinu Tam. That's what that Arizal says. Shal yizgal rak ritzuas de Rashi. Now he says, Misha menich tefillin shel yad shel das Rabbeinu Tam shel rosh kedas Rashi. Let's say all I have is I have a shel yad of Rabbeinu Tam and I have a rosh of Rashi. So he says you can't wear this because it's a contradiction. You're not being consistent. But he says if you have no choice, then you should at least wear it. Why? Because the halacha is if I only have 1, I could just wear 1. So it doesn't hurt. It's not worse than just wearing 1. That's what he says. Now, so he says the only one you make a bracha on is the Rashi. So if you have just a shel yad, you make the bracha on the shel yad. If you just have a shel rosh of Rashi, meaning whatever is Rashi, make the bracha on. The Mishnah Berurah then says, now, so how do you fix the Baal Tosef? He says, you can't, right? The Mechaber says what you do is you have in mind that one should be for the mitzvah, one should just be leather. Says the Mishnah Berurah, now, some are still not the biggest fan of this. Then the Mishnah Berurah says, and we'll end with this, that you're just thinking that it's just leather. Why is this not baltaisis? And the Mishnah Berurah says, I'll tell you why it's not baltaisis. First of all, they're two separate boxes. If it was one box that had 5 compartments, that's for sure baltaisis. Over here, it's 2 separate boxes. So to start, it's 2 separate. It's a little bit better. Secondarily, I also know that one of them is puzzle. If I thought both of them were the mitzvah, I'm doing more than the Torah said. The Torah said 4 boxes, I put on 8. Over here, you have a double help. First of all, they're not in one box; they're in 2 separate compartments, so it's easier to separate the two. And secondarily, I know one of them is puzzle, so therefore, I'm just having in mind that the one that's the mitzvah is yotze, and the other one is just leather. That's the psak. All right, we'll stop here. We'll pick it up tomorrow.